Have moved your bill, and it's under consideration. So
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating both Senator Britt and I, who are running down to vote and come back. I will try to be very brief here, but there is, of course, a reason why we leave the Homeland Security Appropriations bill to the end. It's a hard one to get a bipartisan bill funding DHS's diverse portfolio. You need to make some big compromises, and we did that in this bill. But most of all, you frankly need a chair and a vice chair that are laser-like focused on getting a result. And so my thanks to Chair Murray and Vice Chair Collins for not leaving any of these subcommittees behind. And this is a really important precedent that we are setting as a committee. We are all going to benefit from what we have been doing over the last few weeks, putting this committee back in a position of relevance. So here are the basics on the fiscal year 2024 Homeland Security Appropriations bill. It's $61.3 billion for the department to get them what they need to support this really interesting variety of missions: Coast Guard, FEMA, Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, TSA, and others. I want to thank Senator Britt for her leadership, for her partnership on developing this bill. We've worked really well together as a new team, and we've got a lot more work to do. Let me give you the highlights of what we've got. And let me say that some of the late agreed upon emergency money has really helped here, but this is still a really tight budget. So there are some targeted increases in this bill, many for Republican priorities, but there are also some tough cuts in this bill as well. TSA is really important to us, so we fund their current services and we provide them with enough money to keep this TSA pay schedule moving towards the federal schedule. CISA doing more work than ever before, constant cyber attacks against the United States every day. We continue to have really strong support for their mission, and they're getting a small but really important increase. FEMA, funded in this bill. Listen, we're going to have to probably come back and talk about whether we've got enough money in the DRF, depending upon the number of events that happen this year, but we do well by FEMA. Coast Guard is getting what they need. The big tickets here: $579 million for the Offshore Patrol Cutter program. We've got $56.5 million for two MH-60T Jayhawk helicopters, really important, flexible, quick response capability. Great news for our Great Lakes senators, finally, $55 million for the purchase to get moving on new heavy Great Lakes icebreakers, and even better, $150 million for the purchase of a new polar icebreaker and money to operationalize that, some money for the crew. Let me talk about, finally, what we're doing at the border in this bill. We've got money to hire about 700 additional CBP officers. That's really important because it reduces wait times for people and goods. We think that's about $1.3 billion in increased GDP. We're increasing the number of Border Patrol agents up to 20,000 agents, big deal. Massive increase, Senator Collins talked about this, in technology investments in the border. That's what a lot of this emergency money goes towards, $263 million. Listen, we've got to put money into helping to manage the flow of immigrants at the border. It's lower than it was a year ago. It's a lot lower than what people thought might happen after Title 42 was lifted, but it's still expensive, and so we've got money for facilities and nonprofits to make sure that we humanely manage the flow of people at the border. And finally, we've included language in this budget noting that there are unexpended border barrier funds that the administration has not spent, and we require accountability for the plan on how to obligate those funds. Lastly, I just want to talk about what I think might be the most important investment in this bill, and that is $824 million in new investments to stop fentanyl from crossing our border. This is something that both Republicans and Democrats can agree on. This is a big part of this bill, a major new investment in fighting America's new plague. Just three examples of how we do this. First, we are providing funding to increase the number of passenger vehicles that are scanned at the ports of entry from 40% to 65%. Now, we should get higher than that, but that's a big jump in 1 year, and that likely results in 15% more fentanyl being seized. Second, we're expanding the HSI task forces that target these fentanyl trafficking rings. They've been really successful. They're going to get more funding. And third, we're increasing outbound inspections. That's transit going from the U.S. to Mexico, because this is a circular flow of drugs coming in and money and weapons going out. So that's a really important investment as well. So again, let me thank the chair and the vice chair for just being so focused on getting a result here. This is not an easy bill to write, but I think we have a bill that has drawn really good bipartisan support. We've got some more work to do, But I am grateful to the entire team that made this possible, the leadership staffs, but on minority and majority, subcommittee staff, Viraj, Chris, Thompson, Dan, Jen, Jim, Emily, Maria, Chris, and especially Cammie for the great work they've done to get us to this point. So thank you for allowing us to bring this bill before the committee.
Thank you. Senator Britt.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to express my gratitude to you and Vice Chair Collins. It's a testament to your tremendous leadership and determination from both of you that today marks a milestone of this committee marking up 12 out of 12 appropriations bills. It's a significant accomplishment and no doubt a win for the American people that the appropriations process is proceeding in this fashion, and that would not happen without the leadership of the two of you. On a personal note, especially as a freshman member, I have greatly appreciated your counsel and support over these last few months. And Ranking Member Collins, I remain honored and humbled by the responsibility with which you entrusted me and your earlier shout out. Thank you. I also appreciate the comments of my colleague, Chairman Murphy, about the positive nature of our engagements on the Homeland Security bill. I have enjoyed working with him from the very beginning, even into the final minutes before this vote. In particular, I'd like to highlight some of the important provisions that are in this bill that I believe will improve border security and protect our nation. I am pleased that this bill funds an increase of more than 1,100 personnel across Customs and Border Protection and Immigration Customs Enforcement. It also includes significant funding for border security technology. In addition, fentanyl is the leading cause of death, as you all know, in America between our citizens the ages of 18 to 45. And this bill appropriates over $800 million in new funding to combat the scourge of fentanyl that is poisoning our communities, schools, families, and destroying too many American lives. This bill is a positive step forward in a whole-of-government approach to target the cartels and transnational criminal organizations engaged in fentanyl trafficking, child exploitation, and human smuggling. Additionally, this bill provides necessary funding to allow the Coast Guard to continue to invest in critical programs like the offshore patrol cutter and to acquire a commercially available icebreaker that will expand our near-term presence in the Arctic to counter the ambitions of Russia and China. I remain thankful to Senator Murphy for working with me to secure these critical priorities. While I have no doubt this bill makes significant strides compared to President Biden's woeful budget request, there is still more work that needs to be done to end rather than manage the ongoing border crisis. On the heels of record encounters, I believe that we must complement the border security technology included in this bill with funding for a physical barrier system along our southern border. After several visits of the southern border, it is something that I personally believe is a critical tool to helping keep our homeland safe and secure. Despite this administration admitting it urgently needs additional 6,000 beds, this bill does not increase the number of ICE detention beds. And as we all know, there are billions of dollars that are flowing to different groups, DHS, non-governmental organizations included, to house migrants and move them around the country. And we need answers as to how and why and where this money is being spent. As I watch daily encounters continue to increase day after day, yesterday 6,883, I remain concerned that these issues I just referenced serve as an incentive for people to come here outside the legal pathways. I certainly remain grateful to Chairman Murphy and Chair Murray and Vice Chair Collins as you have worked to restore regular order here on the appropriations process. And I'd like to echo Chairman Murphy in thanking the Homeland Security team. On both sides of the aisle, Viraj, Daniel, Chris, Thompson, LaShonda, Cammie, Jen, Jim, Emily, Chris, Maria, all of you for your hard work. As someone who has sat in a very similar seat, I know that we would not be here on any of these bills without you. So thank you for your critical work. Madam Chair, that concludes my statement.